I call this meeting of Central Florida Facilitators, Toastmasters Club 9958 to order. Thank you all for being here tonight, and please, let's turn our cell phones off. For our guests, the restroom is outside this door, not right outside. You make a left, the first opening, you make another left, and it's all the way on your right-hand side, towards the end.
Thank you.
Okay. At Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains a clear understanding of the club's purpose, and the organization as a whole benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Please help me welcome our thought and pledge leader for this evening, Charlie Bombalier. You can give anything you want. You can have anything you want if you are willing to give up the belief that you can't have it. Please stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have to fill in as a speaker tonight or what?
No, I'm not guessing.
Got something ready? Speaker, timer, and vote counter.
At this time, I'm going to take a 5-minute break so we can get all our people together.
I'm bad about it, but
Just talk.
Okay.
Everybody else is fair game now.
yeah.
Welcome to Central Florida Facilitators Club 9958. For our guests tonight, before I introduce them or have them introduce themselves, please, we have three guests tonight.
Yes. Like it. Yes.
Thank you. Have the guest list.
Now we have one.
How many do we get that guest list?
We are called facilitators for 3 reasons. Number 1, we are sponsored by the Central Florida chapter of the American Society of Training and Development, the premier organization for professional facilitators. Number 2, a good facilitator needs to be a strong communicator and an effective leader, and Toastmasters is all about communication and leadership. And number 3, to facilitate needs to make things easy and possible, and we want to make things easy and possible for you tonight. Did you get the names? Thank you. Since we have 3 guests, I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce yourselves and tell us how you heard what got you in here. We'll start with Marie Soto.
My name is Marie Soto, and I represent a company called Exhibit Marketing and Promotional Items. And I heard about the Toastmaster to Meetup group. They sent me an email. I'm new to this area, and it's just around the corner of my house, so this is very suitable for me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Ines Soto.
Ooh, okay, yes,
My long-lost cousin? No, just kidding. No relation. My name is Ines Soto. I'm here by invitation of Cece Ward. I first heard of Toastmaster years ago for an engineer firm that I used to work for. I'm no longer in engineering. I'm a state certified court interpreter, and she told me about the meeting, so I'm here to see what it's about.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Shamsi Ward. I pronounce that properly.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shanice. I was introduced or invited by Cece as well. Actually, graduated at UCF not too long ago, and a long-term teacher at Apopka High School, teaching Algebra 2. Just my friends, they also participate in Toastmasters as well, so I just figured I would come today and to support as well.
Great, thank you. Do you want to speak again, sir? You know what I'm saying. Okay. Because we're running a few minutes behind, I'm going to introduce this to you. Toni Gittles has been a Toastmaster for 11 years. She has always found it difficult to share personal stories, and over time has learned to gradually open up about her life. Successes, failures, caregiving, her mom, life lessons learned. Her favorite week on Dancing with Stars is called My Most Memorable Year. It's emotional, it's heartwarming, and it is beautiful to hear her celebrities tell their stories. This is the reason for our theme today, My Most Memorable Year. Please welcome our Toastmaster for tonight, Toni Gittles.
I'm too far away from you. Welcome to Central Florida Facilitators and, well, what'd you write? Your most memorable year. My most memorable year, however you want to say it. My most memorable year was 1989. My dad was 69 and my mother was 72. Our family owned Electron Incorporated, a hearing aid manufacturing company in Longwood, Florida. All three of us worked there. My dad was trying to semi-retire, as he put it, work less hours. So we bought a condo in Las Vegas and planned to take the fax machine over there so he could stay in touch with office business. My dad was not a real warm person. He was easy to talk to, but he didn't talk a lot. You had to pull it out of him. And he was terrible at giving hugs. And I love hugs, so we were going to change all that, especially when I came to work for him in 1986. I figured, we're working on it, we're doing this. I'm getting this from him. So in 1989, as he was planning his first trip to Las Vegas to relax, I met him between the sales and accounting departments. We were going different directions, and he was getting ready to leave. And I said, "Are you leaving?" He said, "Yep, we're going. So give me a hug?" He goes, "Okay." And he gave me the best daddy-daughter hug ever. And when he released me, he said, "Is that okay?" And I said, "Awesome." The other part of the story is 7 days later, my dad passed away in Las Vegas. Hey, playing poker with a pile of chips in front of him, just like he would have wanted it. But that was a memorable year, and there's a lot more to the story. But that's where that begins. We have functionaries tonight. Let's hear from our Oconner, Roy Wittig. What are you going to be doing tonight?
Fortunately for Toastmasters, I have no need for this thing personally, so you don't need to worry about me embezzling it. Can I roll with the word of the day as early as I roll?
Yes,
Sure.
All right, good. Let me get that out of the way. In order to improve the quality of our speech, the Oconner's job is to make us aware of disruptive audible clutches such as the double clutches, which is the repetition of a word while a speaker searches for their next thought. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words such as and, so, or like. I will sound the buzzer when I hear any of these infractions, except speaker 1 and speaker 2. Definitely speaker 3.
No speaker 3.
Oh.
I'm an evaluator.
Oh, why did I ask you if you need to?
Yeah. No, I'm fine.
I'll still buzz you.
Still buzz me.
Please note this is not to cause embarrassment, but to get immediate feedback on the areas that need improvement. The fine for each infraction is 10 cents. 10 cents. Guests and members who have not given their icebreaker speech will not be fined or buzzed, but I will keep track of their infractions. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting. I'm Toastmaster.
Our grammarian this evening is Stephen Block. Stephen, please tell us about your role this evening.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Not to embezzle from the conversation, this is my first time as grammarian, so I'm going to do my best. As grammarian, I have two basic responsibilities. First is to provide a word of the day for my fellow Toastmasters and guests in order to expand our vocabulary. I've chosen the word of the day, which is embezzle. I didn't know the topic for today, so I figured in conjunction with today being tax day, I would pick a word that was tax related. If you have an opportunity to speak, please do your best to use the word. I will keep track of those who use the word of the day. Those who do not use the word of the day will be fined 25 cents. Guests and members who have not yet given their icebreaker speech will not be fined. I will listen for colorful imagery and the use of exceptional vocabulary and grammar. I will suggest improvements in grammar as needed. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
And our supervisor of elections and timer, the incomparable Mickey Dimitrescu.
My plan was to do nothing tonight. But you read my plan. As a timer, I am going to time your speeches, scheduled speakers, evaluators, and table topic speakers. To qualify, the speakers must speak no less than 30 seconds under their range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over the range maximum. I'm going to turn on the green light at range minimum, yellow light at mid-range, and red line at range maximum. We have the speeches, required time for scheduled speeches tonight, 4 to 6 minutes, Cece, Mark 5 to 7 minutes. Table topics, they last 1 to 2 minutes, or they're supposed to. And to qualify, speakers must speak at least 1 minute and no more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And evaluators must speak a minimum of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and a maximum of 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Like you've never done this before. Good job.
And as a vote counter, I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I will tally the results for award presentation at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up any comments you might have written for the speakers or for any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, once again, put your hands in front of you like this and clap for me. For our guests, you all have an agenda, and you can tell that we have a very organized meeting plan, and this is the format for our typical weekly meeting. Sometimes it varies for a special event. So I hope you can follow along, even if this is your first time in Toastmasters. We call the roles, most of the roles are leadership roles. And we have two speakers tonight who have spent some time in preparation for their speeches. They will be evaluated a little bit later in the meeting, and in a very positive and encouraging way, but as well as telling how they can improve on their next speech. So we're trying to move you forward to the next level at all times. We have an exciting event tonight, my opinion. Maybe it agrees with you as well. Our first speaker is giving her icebreaker. So this is her first speech. Okay, so that's exciting. This young lady is from the Caribbean. How do you say it, Cece?
Caribbean.
Caribbean. She's a very positive young lady and cannot tolerate any negativity that comes to her ears. Love to tell her stories in a positive way as she sees it. Sifting out her life to you is a pleasure of hers. Speaking on the topic, is it just a dream? Please welcome Cece Ward.
Imagine this, a tiny little girl about 5 years old, sitting alone at the table in her grandmother's custom-made wooden kitchen. She then turns her head upward towards the sky and drifted far away to an unfamiliar place. She's fascinated by the white streetlights illuminating in her ears. She could hear the birds chirping in the trees above her. She gazes at the tall building she had never seen before. Then she turns her head to some familiar faces as the fast cars moving past her. She opens her eyes and realizes it was still the year 1972. She was still in the same island of Dominica and still at the same kitchen at her grandma's home. She's now disappointed and plunges her head slowly, sadly down, realizing it was only a dream. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. It wasn't too long before my dad came to my grandmother's house and picked me up in his yellow classic Ford. It was 1960 Ford Bronco. I didn't know where I was going to. I wondered whether it was still a dream. Later, Dad mentioned the word America. I then realized that America was what probably I was dreaming about. I spent about 95% of my childhood and young adult years in St. Thomas. It is the United States Virgin Island, and we know it to be the Rock. I cannot forget eating the mouth-watering fried fish and Johnny cake, the locally made coconut tart, drinking the callaloo soup, and flavorful strawberries, pineapples, and banana daiquiris. This, my friend, was the exotic life of mine on the Rock. I had not decided which college to apply for until I could research, envision living in a state on the mainland that would closely resemble my hometown. Finally, I chose Orlando, Florida, and UCF was my main choice for college. During my college years, I experienced the worst culture shock in my life. Oh, the headaches, anxiety attacks, depression just lingered on. Nothing worked for me to solve this problem, but my college roommate suggested that we take a holiday trip to St. Thomas, and I quickly obliged. I was back at my hometown, spending 2 long weeks holiday, and it felt so good. As we walked in the park, I accidentally spotted this young dude who I tried to hide from all throughout my high school years. Oh, and I hated him. He was embarrassing me while he was singing this corny song by Billy Stewart, sitting in the park, waiting for you. Well, my homesickness was gone, and I was then more able to cope with life. I eventually graduated from UCF magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. 1 year later, in 1988, my brother moved to Florida, and so did Travis, the very same young dude who was sitting in the park waiting for me. It was not too surprising to know later on, Travis became my husband. Together, we birthed this beautiful baby girl. I was convinced that she was God's divine purpose. Her name is Shanice, and she was divinely chosen before I knew what sex she was. The baby's room was already decorated with soft and aquamarine. Since Shanice is 25 years old now, she has enlisted into the Navy. Her departure is scheduled for this August of 2015. She and I are very close, and I'm very happy for her, but I do not look forward for this separation this August. My professional life involves auto, home, and property insurance. My 10-year career has exposed and afforded me several promotions in the areas of subrogation, arbitration, and litigation. Someday I will operate my own public adjusting company to advocate not for the insurance company, but for the insured and the homeowners. This goal of mine is not too far-fetched because I've been dreaming enough throughout my life. As you look past in my life, you can now believe that I am a dreamer. Remember the 5-year-old little girl dreaming about America at her grandmother's house? Remember me wishing for a trip back to my hometown, and it became true? Remember the same man in the park I was hiding from then became my husband, but I liked it this much. And remember that I wished so much for a little girl, and the angel now exists among us in the room. Friends, imagine what other things we can manifest in our lives. With that said, I will now leave you with the famous quote of Les Brown: "Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you will still be among the stars." Mrs. Toastmaster.
Madam Timer will have 1 minute on the clock. You all have ballots there and a place for some comments. You can make a comment to our speaker, some strengths and things you like. Do you need a pen? Anybody have an extra pen for our guest? What pen? And of course, you can write comments to any of the Toastmasters that participate in the meeting. We all want to hear what you have to say. My most memorable year on Dancing with the Stars is full of emotion, tears, joy, the beauty of expressing yourself from dance. And as I've mentioned before, to me, as a dancer, expressing yourself through dance is a very similar process to expressing yourself through words. Some of the celebrities are dancing as a tribute to their mother, now deceased. Success at the Olympics and winning gold medal after an 18-year journey. Overcoming bullying and dedicating the dance to all who have ever felt they weren't enough. One to the year her son was born. A successful singer, but the most memorable year of her life was the year her son was born. Accepting the tragedy that occurred in Iraq, the loss of 2 limbs, his journey to acceptance, and Dancing with the Stars. A pro football player, a gay pro football player, whose father has rejected him in a national magazine. Our next speaker says there are over 7 billion people in the world. Somebody want to fact check that? At some point in life, someone you don't know will make a bad decision that will affect your life or the life of someone you love. No wall is high enough, no barrier is thick enough. Eventually, something bad will find its way to your doorstep. You can decide whether to answer the door or not answer the door. Usually it doesn't make a difference. If evil wants in, evil gets in. Hopefully, you get to make the decision on how long it stays. Here with a dramatic story based on true events, please welcome Mark Lockery.
There are 3 days out of the year that I choose to stay inside and not go out on the roads. They are St. Patrick's Day, the 4th of July, and New Year's Eve. And the reason I do that is because I know if I'm in my house, the chances that I or my family will be hurt by someone else's bad decisions is greatly reduced. And I am safer in my house, in my castle, if you will. Unfortunately, though, sometimes castles do get invaded. Madam Toastmaster, members, and guests. It's New Year's Eve, 2011, Oklahoma. And young Sarah McKinley is sitting on the couch in her house, her castle, with her 3-month-old baby on her lap and her trusting dog by her side. At first glance, it seems like a picture worthy of a Norman Rockwell painting. But there's more to this scenario. Sarah is only 18 years old, and even though she's only 18 years old and a mother, she's also a widow. Her husband had just died on Christmas Day after battling cancer. Next, she lives in a very rural part of Oklahoma, and her closest neighbor is about a mile and a half away. And lastly, the trusting dog on her lap suddenly looks at the door, his ears perk up, and he starts growling. All of a sudden, we're not in a Norman Rockwell painting anymore. What we have is the beginning of just about every horror movie that's ever made. Suddenly, there's a pounding on her door, and Sarah's jolted back into reality from wherever her mind had taken her earlier. She manages to get up and glance through the opening in the window, and she notices the figure outside looks kind of familiar. She's never met this man, but he showed up at her doorstep on the day of her husband's funeral, saying he was a colleague of his and wanting to pay his respects. But Sarah didn't know him, so she didn't let him in the house. The pounding continues, and now Sarah's really frightened. She doesn't know what to do. So she gets up and she manages to push the couch in front of the door, creating a little bit of a barricade. She takes her 3-month-old baby into the back bedroom. She grabs a weapon out of the closet. She picks up the phone and she dials 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone trying to break into my house and I have a 3-month-old baby. Please send somebody right away. The 911 operator assures her that she's going to send an officer to her residence as soon as possible. But remember, Sarah's in the middle of nowhere. The police aren't going to get there for at least 15 or 20 minutes. Sarah knows her door is not going to last that long. The pounding continues. So Sarah asks the 911 operator. She says, I have a gun in my hand. Can I shoot him if he enters my house? The 911 operator pauses for a second, and then she tells Sarah, I can't tell you it's okay to shoot somebody, but you do what you have to do to protect your baby. The pounding continues. And then finally the door succumbs to all the pressure and is burst open, pushing the couch about 18 inches into the living room. And the intruder steps in. This is the first time Sarah can see the man in the doorway. And she sees in his right hand he's carrying a 12-inch hunting knife. Now, it doesn't take anybody with a degree to understand that somebody pounding on your door in the middle of the night with a 12-inch hunting knife is not there to pay his condolences to your recently departed husband. He's there to do something bad, something very, very bad. At that point, the assailant scans the house and he sees Sarah standing in the doorway of her bedroom. And what he sees in Sarah's hand is a 12-gauge double-barrel shotgun. You do what you have to do to protect your baby. With those words still resonating inside Sarah's mind and fresh on her mind, she drops the phone to the ground, she raises the shotgun, and she does what she has to do to protect her baby. The police did show up about 12 minutes later, and there they found Sarah, they found her 3-month-old baby, and they found the dog, visibly shaken, yet they were okay. They also found on the living room floor the dead intruder, dropped exactly where she had shot him with the shotgun. He was later identified as 24-year-old Justin Martin, an apparent drug addict who, upon learning about her husband's passing of battling cancer, figured there would be some pretty good prescription drugs in her house and figured he would just go take what he wanted. It would be an easy pickup. We would like to think that we live in a safe society and there are good people out there and everybody does good. But the truth of the matter is there are bad people out there that do bad things. And sometimes evil will show up at the gate of your castle. And you have no alternative but to do what you need to do to defend it. Madam Toastmaster.
At this time, I call for the timers report. Oh, 1 minute for comments. Thank you. See, now you're correcting me. Isn't that cool? Welcome, Nikki, for our timers report. Everybody.
First speech required time 4 to 6 minutes. Cece spoke for 6 minutes and 17 seconds. She qualifies. Mark required time 5 to 7 minutes. He spoke for 5 minutes and 52 seconds. He qualifies.
Thank you. What they qualified for is to be the best speaker this evening, in your opinion. So if our guests would like to vote, if you had someone that you feel is a favorite speaker tonight, you may vote. All of you, please take time to vote. And let's see, this is Vicki will eventually come by and collect your comments and collect your votes. So take your time. Michael Sam is a gay football player, the first openly gay player in the football league. As a child, his older brother was killed by gunshot. His mom and dad argued a lot, and eventually his father left the family. In college, Michael reconnected with his father, And then he opened up to his dad and told him, I'm an openly proud gay man, his words. His father told the New York Times he was ashamed of his son. That was the last time he saw his dad. Michael performed a rumba, which is a very expressive dance anyway, despite the theme of the evening. He danced to the song, I'm Not My Father's Son. Carrie Ann Inaba, one of the judges, said to him, you were truly dancing your soul. Bruno said it takes a lot of courage to stand for what you believe in. One of the things that I noticed about that entire evening was the judges were commenting about the honesty, the vulnerability, and the authenticity. And those are three qualities that we also look for in an amazing speaker, an exceptional speaker. And for our guests, I don't want you to think that you have to tell your personal stories when you get here. You may talk about anything that you want to talk about. It can be work-related, it can be a topic you're researching. You get to choose every time you speak, except in table topics, which is coming up. Are you prepared also with a joke for the day?
When I get up there.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Stephen, who may have a joke for us, but definitely has table topics for us. Table topics is the impromptu speaking part where we learn, we get a question that we don't expect, and we learn to come up with an answer and speak on our feet. Whoa, got that wrong. You can buzz me, Roy. I'd love to hear the buzzer every now and then.
I thought you said not to buzz you, I'm sorry.
Oh, God, no, always. 1752. That is the most memorable year for our Table Topics Master this evening. Why 1752? No, he's not that old. But it might be your table topic. Stew on that as we welcome tonight's Table Topics Master, Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Now we get to practice our impromptu speaking skills. I also apparently am listed on here as the joke of the day, so apparently I also get to participate in the impromptu. I had to look one up to try and find one. My humor is usually best spontaneous, not prepared. Prepared, I seem to just go fall flat on my face. So I'll give it my best shot. Guy walks into a bar, it's fairly sparsely populated, not many people there that evening. He actually just came there for a drink, so he ordered one from the bartender, he gets his drink, and he's sipping it. And he hears someone say, nice shirt. He looks around and nobody's looking at him. Doesn't know what that was about, goes back to his drink. Drinks a little bit more, and then he hears, nice hair. Be a great pickup line perhaps, but there's no one else around. He asks the bartender, who was saying that? The bartender goes, it was the nuts. Huh? It's the nuts, they're complimentary. The theme you were given this evening, your most memorable year, was the one put forth for the meeting. I'll do my best to have you provide your most memorable parts. All right, timer is going to be putting on the lights. You have to get to the 1 minute to qualify. That will be when the green light comes on. 2 minutes will be when the red light comes on. Then you have 30 seconds if you wish to still qualify for the best table topics this evening. Our guests you'll get a chance to see before you have to decide whether or not you want to join in. What is the year you want most to have? We'll go with Stephen.
I'm going to pick the year 1912 because that was a year before the 16th Amendment was passed and we had to pay income tax. One of the things that was mentioned earlier is what we strongly believe in, and I believe in abolishment of the income tax for many reasons. So let me read to you the 16th Amendment. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration. The biggest thing I have against the income tax is the lack of representation. When you pay for something, the expectation is that you're going to get something in return. It means if you pay a toll to use a road, you're going to get a nice road to drive on. You're not going to get that chopped up road that you do crossing the Verrazano Bridge in New York City. You're going to get services. The primary function of taxes is to protect our nation, to fund our military, to build our infrastructure. It is not to do other things, such as sending foreign funds abroad. It is also taxed unequally among people, and it creates a nightmare when you have to file your taxes every year. Then, if you make an honest mistake on your taxes, you are subject to fines and imprisonment and the hassle of having to go through an audit. A more fair tax would be a sales tax and a property tax. Because they are representative, you gain value from what you consume. I included heat bags on the printouts that I printed for all of you. Whether you're conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, I urge you to send it to a politician you disagree with because they are misusing and embezzling the funds that you rightfully contribute to the system. Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Somebody came prepared.
Yes. Must be improper.
Oh no, the best way to handle these is to be prepared. You just have to find a way to steer it.
Yeah, I get it.
So, what year was most memorable to you for what happened to everyone else? Charlie. What year was most memorable to you for what happened to everyone else?
Mr. Tabletop Master. The year most memorable to me was 2008, when the country turned liberal. Not just liberal, but extreme liberal. And the year that I'm hoping most to get to is 2016, when we can get a centered ideology conservative to run this country. Which one of the main things that I do want to see happen is really eliminate the IRS. I'm still, after 6 years now, still fighting with the IRS, and I have proven to them that I have paid certain portions of the business that they claim that I did, and I have proof of it, but they don't seem to want to respond to those questions and answers that I give them. So I'm still having to go back. In fact, just yesterday I received another letter from them inviting me back in. I have 2 different people working, accountants working on this, that is costing me a lot of money. And unfortunately I have to keep doing it. So to get back to my original question, I would like to see the elimination of the IRS and have either a fair tax or a flat tax, something that is true, and stop all this embezzlement that the government does to us. Mr. Tabletop. 4 more years.
For our guests, you do not have to talk politics if you want to. Of those 3 there, are any of you willing to take a shot at tabletop?
We encourage it.
We encourage it, but you're not forced to.
Marie!
Marie's laughing. She wants to do it.
Would you like one or not?
She's a good speaker.
Well, thank you. No, not tonight.
Inez.
You could give your table topics in Spanish.
I think
Can I have some time to think about it?
Yes, Janice, would you be willing?
Yeah, do we have wine?
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
That is fine. That means more for the rest of you. okay?
Yeah.
What year in the future will be most memorable for you? Roy.
The year that will be most memorable for me, one of these days, is 2037. That's the day I will quasi be retiring. I think. I look forward to partial retirement one day. Has everybody heard my icebreaker last week? I don't like not doing anything. I like staying active. I like working, but I do plan on semi-retiring one day. Now I have friends who think they're retiring in the next 4 or 5 years who are my age. They're all bank guys, financial planner type guys that are doing very well, and they think they're going to retire around 40. I'm not going to be that fortunate, but sometime in the near future, I'm going to get down to 20 hours a week, spend time with my family, get good at golf one of these days, go out and vote for a Republican, and things are just going to be awesome. I'm going to vacation, I'm going to go to the Virgin Islands, I'm going to play tennis, I'm going to get to do all the things I've always wanted to do in life and just have never had time to, because I always try to take on too many things and do a million things at once. So one of these days, when I'm partially retired, I'll have time to take all these things on. It will be a glorious day. I will no longer need corporate America to get by. I will be free. I will be on my own. 2037, here I come.
One more in there?
Oh, yeah, okay.
The year everything changed. Sarah.
Yeah, everything changed. I have to go back to a very early memory, because that's the start where you remember, oh my gosh, this is a massive change. I've had tons of changes since then, and they've been big and very impressionable. But I'd say I grew up in the UK, so I was this very small village. I would say when people ask, where are you from? Like they're gonna know this big tiny little village. And I was like, it's a place with a pub and some sheep. And that's it. No one's heard of it, it's a small village. And I've got memories of being 4 or 5, and one of the earliest memories is of me on a plane, taken off with my mother and my brother. My dad had left several months earlier to relocate. This wasn't to London or to Scotland or to Ireland. This was to Saudi Arabia, which I couldn't even pronounce, and I had no idea what we were doing. You just go with the family you trust. And it was memorable as I was on the plane, and a long time ago, so that's where smoking was allowed on the plane, so smoke was coming back, and it was all stuffy, and I landed in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, 5 years old. I spent 5 years there. So my friends that I remember growing up, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, they were gone. And I remember this smell, and it was a smell of just that heat. It wasn't that fresh, rainy smell that England has, but it was a new beginning. And it was just my family. And I remember at that point, looking back, it was a very simple life, but the good memories were I was close to my family. I loved a simple life where all I did, what I remember doing, is just playing sports. And I've loved that and have gone into the profession, and everything I do, I know goes back to how I felt back in those years in Saudi Arabia. That's probably one of my most memorable memories. Thank you.
I have a question for Roy. Were you going to take 12 minutes for the All-Counters report?
Oh, it's this.
15.
Then I guess I'm done. Or perhaps I believe somebody would like a bit of practice. Julian, you have something to do this weekend, do you not?
Yes,
Need a bit of practice, do you?
absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Way to go.
The year time forgot. Julian Cutto.
Time forgot many of my years, unfortunately. When I was a kid, time forgot most of my years. It was a miserable time, unlike Sarah. I didn't have a family. I didn't have no money. I was prejudiced against because I was a Cuban in Miami when there were no Cubans. Nobody spoke Spanish in Miami. In school, I was a spick. And I had to fight every freaking day to uphold my honor. And it was a time that, it makes you hard. Some people today are kind of soft. When you grow up in the ghetto, you grow up tough. You get thick-skinned. And sometimes you relate to people in that manner and they get offended. And you don't mean it as an offense. You just grew up different. So time forgot my childhood. I didn't really have a childhood. And I'm glad that I, as a parent, was able to give my kids a great childhood. A childhood that they had games and they played baseball and they were able to do a lot of stuff that I couldn't do. So that was the time that time forgot. Mr. David.
And now we haven't voted yet.
No, I mean on Sunday, Saturday.
Sunday. At the Division D contest. Therefore, back in school, what was the year in history that you just hated having to learn about? Toni? What was the year in history you hated having to learn about?
Oh, I just hated history. Oh, seriously. Seriously, one of my worst subjects. I didn't like particularly learning about any of the wars. They seemed complicated, they seemed stupid. I didn't understand why we couldn't just all get along. But memorizing dates and places and who won and who lost and how long it went on, useless information. Never, okay, I'm 65 people, I've never found a use for that information. And it's fun to know facts, but I have other facts that I'm familiar with. Yeah, history, that was my C subject. It made me a B student because it ruined everything. That and science. Not good at science. But you know what? Speaking of being a B student, my dad thought that was awesome. You heard a little bit about my dad. He was very encouraging. He was loving in his own way, and he was very supportive, especially when I went to work for him. So my history with my father and my mother is the most important history that there is. And I would put forth the idea that your history, each and every one of you, is the most important history that you have. and sharing your success, your failures, your wisdom, your life lessons with as many people as possible is how you make an impact in life and where happiness lives. Mr. Joseph, Mr. Tidbit.
So has anyone figured out 1752? In 1752, the British Empire finally converted from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. In order to do this, they had to eliminate 11 days, because that's how far that the calendar had drifted in that 1750 some years. Therefore, Wednesday, September 2nd was followed by Thursday, September 14th. And all of the other dates that were running around were supposed to have changed at that particular time. What this actually did was brought Britain into alignment with what the rest of Europe was doing. But funny enough, the Orthodox Church remained for the most part of the Julian calendar, which is why Orthodox Christmas is later. What is funny for us is that the colonies here in the North America, being part of the British Empire, had to make that shift as well. Well, they didn't get the news necessarily in time, so different parts of the country would actually lose their 11 days at different times. But what was most interesting for us historically was that George Washington, having been born in 1711, I believe it was, refused to adjust his birthday for those 11 days, as many people were apparently expected to do. As I was growing up, we celebrated George Washington's birthday on February 22nd. It was a holiday at the time before President's Day incorporated Washington and Lincoln together. But Washington wasn't born on February 22nd. He was born on February 11th. Remember those missing 11 days? And he refused to celebrate his birthday on the new February 22nd. He insisted on it being on the 11th throughout his life. Why we celebrate it on the 22nd, I have no idea. But nonetheless, that is why that particular one stands out in history. And it's hilarious for me in computer science because we have to actually deal with calendars.
Wow.
Computers have to deal with calendars. They have to do very special logic to deal with the transition from Julian to Gregorian historically. So we have to do strange stuff within our calendars just to deal with history because of the strange things that we have done. That's why that one's memorable for me. Madam Timer, can we have a timer's report for the table topics, please?
Stephen Block gave us his opinion about taxes. 2 minutes and 22 seconds, he qualifies. Charlie Bambalier spoke about his memorable year. 1 minute and 40 seconds. 40 seconds. Yes, he qualifies. Roy Whitty, memorable year in the future. 1 minute and 25 seconds, he qualifies. Sarah Hunt, about her move to Saudi Arabia. 2 minutes and 8 seconds, she qualifies. Julian about his childhood. 2 minutes and 9 seconds, he qualifies. Toni Peters about the worst year of learning history. 1 minute and 56 seconds, she qualifies. They all qualify.
So take your best table topic speaker ballot out. Cast your vote for any of the speakers this evening, whoever you consider to be the best table topics speaker this evening. Madam Toastmaster.
I'll end with a story about Rumor Willis, the daughter of Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, who herself is an actor and singer. She chose 2014 as her most memorable year when she went through a lot of changes in a positive way. Growing up with celebrity parents was really a horrible time for her. She was awkward as a teenager. She wasn't pretty like her mom, and the media was very, very cruel. She felt bullied by the media, and that's what inspired her for this dance, to fight back against bullying, and also dedicate the dance to her sister, who is an inspiration to her, and anyone who has felt like they were not enough. She said after her dance, "Every week I do something I'm so afraid to do. My partner believes in me even when I don't." I'll leave you with this message. As Toastmasters, you do something regularly, possibly weekly, that you are very afraid of. We challenge ourselves constantly in here. A reminder, all of us believe in you. So keep up the good work. For the next portion of our meeting, our general evaluator will provide feedback of this meeting as a whole. This Toastmaster started in 2004, then took a 6-year break from us, from 2007 to 2014. She's now back, and we love that she's back, trying to gain some momentum and get back on track. Please help me welcome our general evaluator for this evening, the woman with the lovable accent, Sarah Hunt.
Thank you, Stephen.
Oh, hi.
And Toni. So as general evaluator for this evening, my job is to introduce the evaluators, and then I offer feedback as to how the meeting went tonight, as well as make sure the functionaries wrap up their reports. I'm going to get right into it today. The first speech, thank you, evaluator for Cece speech. 9 years ago, Valentine's Day, our next evaluator was dragged to Toastmasters kicking and screaming by her wonderful husband. She was even terrified to say her name, let alone give an icebreaker speech. Now, 9 years later, she not only did she give her icebreaker, but all the other speeches and requirements to attain distinguished Toastmaster. Evaluations played a huge role in helping this Toastmaster to achieve her goals. She's grateful for all the evaluations she has had and those she has given that has helped her achieve her goals. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Susan Morgan.
Good evening, everybody, and especially Cece. This was an icebreaker speech, and I love to evaluate icebreaker speeches because it brings me back to where I was when I did my icebreaker speech, which, as my introduction said, was terrified behind the lectern. Well, what we wanted to know for the icebreaker speech is what strong points does the speaker already have? Well, first of all, Cece, you had really strong descriptive words. You told us about the mouth-watering food. You told us about the birds going chirp, 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 and your dad's yellow Ford Bronco, and about your grandma's wood kitchen, custom wood kitchen, which was really neat. And the other thing is did we get to know you? Yes, I think we got to know you quite well. We know that you went to UCF. We know you're a dreamer. You told us that your family is important to you because that's one of the things that you really talked about, and your beautiful daughter. Some things that you could have maybe worked on, or that you can work on in the future is, yeah, you used notes. We didn't expect necessarily that you wouldn't. But they weren't distracting, so that was really a great job at using your notes but not having them be distracted. And I'd love to see you come out from behind the lectern at some point. Those are a couple things you can work on. Those will be coming, I'm sure. You definitely had an opening, a body, and a conclusion. We had the whole organizational thing there. You used the rule of 3, which is something that we like to use. It seems like people get to understand more when there's a 1, 2, 3, and they can keep that in their heads most of the time, and that's really wonderful. And you did that. You had your 3 mouth-watering dishes that you talked about, and a few other things that went on too with your culture shock and your friends at UCF and going back to St. Thomas. And those are the things that I really thought you did absolutely wonderful. And there's more I've written in your book and have in my little notes that you might be able to read. And I am so happy that you gave your speech, and I'm looking forward to all the rest of them because that was fabulous. Oh, one other good thing, your intro was awesome. I loved it. And that is my evaluation this evening, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you, Susan. Moving on to evaluator number 2, Julian Cotto will once again thrill you and wow you with his evaluation of Mark Lockery's speech. It seems as though this club can't get enough of Julian's 32-ounce T-bone steak evaluations. Please help me welcome Julian Cotto, an almost advanced communicator Silver.
3 days out of the year that I don't go out of my house. For me, it's at least 7 or 8. This was Mark Lockery's advanced speech from the Advanced Communicator Manual, the entertaining speaker, the dramatic talk. I looked for a few items in his speech. I looked for the opening, the organization or the flow of his speech, his thesis, and his closing. A couple of aspects of the speech that I was supposed to look for: was it entertaining, and did he develop the scenery around which this event took place? Definitely, one of the best parts of the speech was his closing. What would you do to protect your castle? In essence, that was the thesis of the speech. If he would have weaved that into his opening, he would have done a much better job of capturing our attention. However, he gave us an opening that was somewhat superfluous and embezzled the thesis of the speech. Just imagine if opening that speech he would have said, "What?" or "What would you do to protect your family?" Wow. Everybody's going to be scratching their head wondering what comes next. Now, the speech was wonderfully organized. One of the best parts of the speech, well, that got your attention, set the flow of the speech, gave us a vivid example of what was going on in Sarah's mind, of this person knocking at the door. In her mind, it almost like this person was knocking the door down. especially in her emotional and mental state. Mark, where was the humor? You could have put some humor in there, get your point across. How you would have done that, I don't know. But that is part of the creative process. You're a funny guy. If you would have somehow figured that out, man, that speech would have taken off. It was a great speech. Work on it. It'll be a winner. Madam, take it on. Or whatever master you are.
Thank you, Julian. At this point, I would like to hear a timer's report, please, from
Susan Morgan spoke for 3 minutes and 5 seconds. She qualifies. Julian Potter for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. He qualifies.
Please vote for the best evaluator at this time, so we can get those organized for our closing. While we're doing that, I'll proceed with the other functionaries. So we'll start with the art council report. Thank you. There's the buzzer.
Madam Evaluator, I had Toni for 3, but she slipped me a note and told me that she actually had 18.
At least.
Charlie 2, likes hands or so's, my friend. I had 0 for Mark, he was way too serious for any ahs or ums. I had 4 for Susan, 0 for McD, 2 for Stephen Block, 4 for Sarah, 1 for Mr. Morgan, just 1 for Cece, great job on your speech by the way, and 2 for Julian.
And grammarian, Stephen, would you like to give us your report?
Thank you. Let's see, Nari spoke first. Her sentence was, this is very suitable for me. I didn't catch anything for Rhina Soto. Then the Shanice said I would come to support. Charlie, my most memorable year, the theme, okay, sorry. Hogan said my dad was trying to be semi-retired. Oh, I love pugs. Roy, let's see. The fine for each infraction is 10 cents. He used the word of the day also. Mickey D, my plan was to do nothing. Cece. Okay. I spotted this young dude who I avoided in my childhood years. Toni again, if evil wants in, evil gets in. Mark, unfortunately, castles do get invaded. Do what you have to do to protect your baby. Charlie had a bunch of things. I didn't get the full context. I have 2 different people working on my taxes. I'm looking forward to 2016. And I would like to see an end to the IRS, which is my theme for tonight. Oh, and Charlie also used the word of the day. I guess I used it before. Roy, let's see. That's the day I will be quasi-retiring, I think. I will no longer need corporate America to get by. So I would say smoking was allowed on the plane, and it was all smoky. Looks like I spelled it wrong on here. Julian, I got the one technical thing. It says, I have no money, which is double negative, and it was interesting because afterwards he talked about growing up speaking Spanish. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that in Spanish a double negative is actually a positive. Is that, or is still a negative? Is that correct? I remember from my Spanish classes.
That's how we talk in the hood. What's the matter for you, huh?
Okay, just one of my memories from Spanish class in high school. Toni, history was my C subject. It made me a B student. Susan Morgan, let's see, which was really neat. Sometimes you could have may work done. Okay, I didn't write it down properly. Julian, 3 days of that year, of the year that I don't go out of my house. For me, it was 7 or 8. Let's see, the scenery of which the events occurred was pretty colorful at the end, and he also used the word of the day. So just for a summary of the people who used the word of the day, it was Roy, Charlie, Julian, and me.
Thank you, Steve. So this time, if you could vote for the most improved. She's flagging me down. She's practically trying to get the certificates all finished. So the most improved speaker for this evening. Go ahead and write that down, and then Mickey will come along and pick it up. And then to conclude my part is to offer different suggestions and how I thought the meeting went. So I'll start at the beginning. We had a suitable break, which was well needed. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for people to come in. I'm usually one that has to get here, maybe the start date, a lot of people coming from work, and it is difficult. So things all worked out in that 5 minutes. It all came together, but that wasn't, we all just sat around. I noticed Toni jumped up, and thank you, Cece, for bringing 2 guests. Anyone that brings a guest, but I noticed you jumped up and greeted, and that was nice to do, so they weren't just sitting there idle in the back. So the 5 minutes was, we get people, we do walk through the door, getting them assigned to some role, greeting guests, putting last minute things together, and then maybe around 7-ish we did start a bit late, but when we started, I think we were ready to go. Toastmaster Toni, very, very well prepared, very impressed, great theme, and tying that Dancing with the Stars and those mini stories. I like those. They were real, and we could relate, and inspiring stories. So I appreciate the time you spent, and you did a great job as the Toastmaster. Next section was Stephen. I'm not sure about your joke, but I'm from Britain, and no one thinks I'm funny, so I appreciate that joke was inserted there. I'm not sure that's new.
British humor.
You won't mind humor, trust me. You'll love. So that was nice. The table topics, great questions. Most of them, I didn't want any of them. I thought they were very hard questions, and everyone responded very well. I thought maybe a bit long. I thought you'd stop, you kept going and going, and the only reason was we did start late, so we're somehow caught up. But I do find, certain segments, we have to be cognizant of time and then know when to trim. It's unfortunate if it has to all be table. I'm sure people would love the table topics to be trimmed. There are only 2 questions asked. Everyone has to do their part in trimming if we do get a late start. And the evaluations, I thought, were well done. You stuck, Susan, to the points, looking at what that purpose of the speech was and giving feedback is the way to go. And then Julian, very concise in pulling 2 pieces, which really offered significant, specific growth for Mark on his speech. So I enjoyed those very much. I believe that's all I do. Who has the comments from the guests? Is that the president?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will welcome back the president, Charlie.
Since we're approaching the end of the meeting, and a really important part is yet to come, I want to take this opportunity and ask our guests what they thought of the meeting, and tell us what part you want to do next week, because I know you're all. So Marie Soto, please go.
For me, it was very nurturing, so I get a lot from people. I love the freedom of speaking your thoughts and to be free the way you will address any topic. So for me, that was amazing, totally amazing. I don't know what part I want next week, but I'll be here.
Tell me she's doing her icebreaker.
Yeah.
Okay, how about Ines Soto?
I enjoyed how everyone challenges themselves. I think it's impressive. Not everyone is willing to do that. So I learned by following a counsel given to challenge yourself. So that was very impressive. And to learn from the two speakers.
Thank you. Please.
I guess I enjoyed the fact that everybody played a essential role in moving the meeting along. I really didn't know how Toastmasters actually was, comes about. So the fact that, you know, the evaluators have to kind of give their own speech, as well as the speakers and the Toastmasters all came. I really had no idea how it actually went about. So this was an awesome experience coming here. If I were to come again, I would definitely probably do the timing. I think that's fun. And keep track of time. Yeah. No, but I like the fact that you just keep everybody on roll and see if they qualify for timing wise. So that would be more of an enjoyment for me.
I am curious about the 2:15 meeting, or 2015, I can't, 8:15 meeting adjourn time. Has something changed in the club that we're trying to leave earlier?
No.
Says 2015? Okay, so I didn't want you to hurry because there's some announcements.
No, I think it was just.
Switch over to the good morning.
Yeah, you must be on the Julian calendar or something?
Leftovers from hospice.
You go to the Hebrew calendar.
probably left over from hospice when we.
Oh, when we needed to get out, okay. May I make a couple announcements?
Sure.
I wanted to tell our guests, and Maria, can I have her attention, please, Julian? I just want to thank you for coming. Toastmasters can be a little bit of an overwhelming experience if you don't know what to expect, or you have an expectation and it's really different. The other thing is to point out, we have some very new members in this club that are still on their learning curve. Some of these roles look easy, but they're not. You'll fumble through them the first time. But we will train you. We will take the time to make sure you're as comfortable as can be the first time you take on a role. And we have mentors in this club. So if you want a mentor to start learning how to prepare your speeches, that's available too. So we don't want you to go through this alone and be afraid. We want to calm you down and help you, support you in any way. And I'm sure all of you are very talented. And the first time you do a role, we'll find out how talented that is. But we will support you in your strengths that you already have and point them out to you. And we will coach you along to improve. I have been here 11 years, and I really did have a lot of ahs and ums and so's and double clutches. So it's a learning process. And remember the story of Nastya Lukin, the Olympic gymnast, spent 18 years getting to the Olympics and winning the gold medal. This is not an overnight kind of club. You can learn something every time you come, and you can quit whenever you want. But we are here to support you in your goals, and I would love to have you all as members.
Thank you.
Next week is the auction. It's a yearly event that we have. This format will not be there except for possibly a timer. We will have an auctioneer come in. Michelle Mingoa has agreed to come back. She did an awesome job the previous time. I have plenty of flyers, and is this what you sent in the email? This is on your computer, so pass this along to friends. It's like an auction. We bring stuff in, and we stand up and we tell you why you want to buy the salt shaker or whatever it is you bring in. We have services that'll be auctioned off. Julian will be checking in with you. Do you have a service you want to auction off? Do you have an old book, a tape of something, a dish, a plant, whatever you want to bring in that you think somebody will buy. And if nobody's interested, you get to take it home and figure out what to do with it. I would appreciate all of your help in inviting guests, because this is a money-making project, a fundraiser for our club that will go toward future experiences and purchase of learning materials from Toastmasters International. Are there any questions about the auction? Most of you have been to an auction before. You bring anybody that owns a checkbook or money. And hopefully they'll have a good time. I also want to say, there was a mention of Julian, would he like a table topic today? Toastmasters International encourages people to compete in their contests. And just as we had table topics today, Julian is our club and area champion in table topics. He is now ready to go to the Division D contest. We were part of a division with, anybody know, Stephen, 50 clubs, 55 clubs in the division?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's less than that.
Close enough.
But around,
It should be around 30.
30, yeah, it should be. Okay, so maybe it's 30 clubs. When he wins that competition, he will go to the state, no, it's called district conference, and there's lots more clubs. It's all of northern Florida. 89?
8 or 9 divisions.
8 or 9 divisions. The winners of those divisions in North Florida will compete in what we call the district. So Julian's going all the way, and we have another member that is in, what contest is it? It is the international speech competition, which is the main event Toastmasters offers, and there are, 167 countries that have Toastmaster clubs. This competition is going on all over the world. So that one is, yours is a big deal, but that one's like a super big deal. So Division D contest, Sunday, 2 o'clock? 1 o'clock at Rollins College in, what do you know the room?
It's the Bush Auditorium.
Bush Auditorium. No, doesn't cost anything to go there. That would be an amazing experience for our guests to see some of the top Toastmaster members, and maybe set your goal.
Speeches and table
Speeches and table topics. Am I done? Oh, I'm done.
Mickey, do you have anything to say? You always have something to say.
Next week she doesn't have any work.
Oh, I forgot about the rules for
The auction.
Well,
Well,
it's
the
the auction.
It's the auction, so.
Oh, so no rules. Yeah. Okay, I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Is there
Okay.
any other business that we can speak about?
Oh, wait, well, Mark is our food chair for next week. Have you contacted, is anybody bringing food?
Yeah, I
Do we
sent an
know?
email. I'm waiting.
You did.
I'll bring food, I just don't know what yet.
Okay.
But I will bring some.
I'm bringing
And
water.
I'm bringing
Let me
wine.
know. Well, there's already one person bringing water.
I'm bringing wine.
I figured.
Yeah.
You were
I'll bring some
You were
wine and I'll
penciling for
bring
wine
some
already.
food.
No. Well, get in touch with Mark as to the item that you're bringing, so he can send an email so we're not duplicating things. And Mark, you can send that to me. Send it to Mickey and send it to who's reliable, Stephen as well. Because I'm supposed to have my computer tomorrow too.
Yay, let's hope so.
Yes, senor.
Is anybody bringing, I know people are bringing in food, but is anybody bringing in stuff to sell? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need you guys to send me
Yeah.
a list of items so that we know what, so we can get organized.
And we need to know the number of guests so we can plan
Right.
for food, because we like food, but we don't know.
Marie, you're coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, now this is the fun part of the meeting,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
the awards time. The first award given is the Tim Chastain Award, which the president gets to pick the winner of that award. And most of the time, in fact all the time, it is given to someone that has done and gone beyond the call of duty. The person that's winning the award tonight, week after week, does things beyond the call of duty. So tonight, my pleasure to give the Tim Chastain Award to Mr. Stephen Morgan. The Best Table Topics Award goes to my Cuban friend, Julian.
I'm still the champ. Yes. Yes.
I like it,
All right.
Do that on.
Best Evaluator Award, Susan Morgan. The Most Improved Award, Cece Ward. And last but not least, the Best Speaker Award, Mark Buckley. We will see you all in the auction next week, and that includes you too, because I know you want to come. Meeting adjourned.